Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. These meetings are recorded for the purpose of preserving the record and noting that we do have an AI note taker listening in, which also constitutes a recording for these purposes. So this meeting is being held under an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by Governor Healy on March 28, 2025, allowing local and regional governments to hold public meetings remotely or in a hybrid fashion through June 30th, 2027. Because a quorum of members is attending online, we're required to have our votes done by roll call. So noting for the group, we are going to depart a little bit from the agenda tonight, but not too much. So we're going to call the group, or rather call the roll for attendance. And then we're going to go directly into guest announcements and questions because we do have a guest speaker for tonight. And we want to be respectful of time.
Okay, I will do the roll. I will do MRPC employees last. So Christopher Monroe.
Here.
Brian Keating.
Yeah.
Doug Thornton.
Here.
It just says Hartley.
Lee Plushaw from the Townsend Planning Board here.
Okay. Iris M.
I'm from the city of Gardner.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Oh goodness, this thing jumps all over the place. Go with Thomas.
Yes, here. From Ethel.
Okay, and then Kathleen. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Kachel? Kachel?
It's Cashel. You had it.
I had it totally wrong. Cashel. Sorry about that. And then we have, I think it's everybody. Then we have a guest, Stephen Meno.
Hello, everyone.
And then MRPC employees, starting with myself, Jason Stanton, Brian Doherty.
Present.
Holly Ford.
Present.
Glenn Eaton.
Present.
Karen Chapman.
Here.
All right.
I believe that's everybody.
Thank you very much. Are there any commissioners present who were not called in the roll? Excellent. Well, moving forward, as I mentioned, we're going to depart on the agenda a little bit and then return back to it. Go right into guest announcements and questions. Glenn, would you like to just take a moment to introduce our guest for tonight?
I think I'm going to turn it right over to Stephen. He's from Dewar. I'm going to have him do the setup, the subject matter. Stephen, thank you for reaching out to us. I'm just going to say, ask you to please proceed with your presentation. And I would ask Stephen, you can coordinate with Jason. He's our IT guy tonight if you need to get screen share to advance your slides. So Stephen, please, name, title, what you're doing and why you're here tonight. And we've given you 35 minutes. So Stephen, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and just explain a little bit about updates that are happening from the Department of Energy Resources. So I'll give a little bit of background of who I am, why I'm here, and then I do have a slideshow. Let's just test if I can share the screen. Looks like I can. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Well, so before I get into the presentation, I just wanted to give a little bit of background about who I am. So my name is Stephen Meno. I am a clean energy siting and permitting regional coordinator with the Department of Energy Resources with the Commonwealth. We are a brand new division that I'll go over a little bit in my presentation that was really formulated in response to legislation that was passed in November that is changing how the siting and permitting of clean energy infrastructure is going to be done in the state. So I am brand new to the role. It's a relatively new division. We launched in April and I was hired in June. And so the purpose of me presenting tonight is really to raise awareness of what the changes that are coming with regards to clean energy infrastructure permitting at the municipal level. I'm going to give just a very abbreviated version of this presentation just for the sake of time, because I know you have a packed agenda. But for those of you who are on this call, you'll be sent all the slides, but I'm also more than happy to meet with any of you individually. I think I've emailed a few of you already to just set up introductory meetings, and I'm more than happy to do that. And you'll have my contact information at the end of the slide as well. So I will just get into the presentation, and I will be quick, but feel free to have any questions or comments at the end. I've accounted for that as well. So just to give a little context where this is coming from, the Commonwealth has inscribed into law certain clean energy goals that it needs to meet to achieve its emissions targets. And there are goals that have been set with regard to energy storage, wind generation, solar energy production, and grid modernization. And so in 2023, the Commonwealth formed a commission to assess how well the state is doing in meeting these emission goals and what might be the hurdles and challenges that are occurring that might be preventing the state from meeting these goals. And that commission kind of resulted in two broad conclusions. One was related to the topic of interconnection issues, and the other was related to the topic of siting and permitting and approving these clean energy projects. And so with a focus on, so I'll be focusing on the siting and permitting aspect of that commission. And so in November of 2024, the legislature passed a law called the 2024 Climate Act. Some people are also referring to it as the 2024 Clean Energy Law. And this was signed by the governor in November. And it creates some changes for how clean energy infrastructure will now be sited and permitted. So when I'm referring to clean energy infrastructure, I'm referring to solar array systems, battery energy storage systems, wind turbines, even anaerobic digestion facilities fall under the definition under this law, but we really the focus of our work will probably be solar arrays and battery systems because that is what we anticipate will be most of these projects that will be happening, at least at the municipal level. And so the law now defines clean energy infrastructure into two broad categories. And they are now small and large facilities. And so the small facilities are the ones that are still permitted at the municipal level. And those are facilities that are less than 25 megawatts of generation, less than 100 megawatts hours of storage, and also any transmission line that might be less than a mile long. Those are all considered small clean energy infrastructure projects that will be permitted at the municipal level. Anything above that so anything larger than 25 megawatts of generation, anything larger than 100 megawatt hours of storage, those will now be permitted through the State Energy Facility Siting Board. And so even though these are what the legislature has created as terms for small and large infrastructure, we still want to acknowledge that, a 24 megawatt solar array could take up over 100 acres. So these are still large systems, especially when it comes to, potential impacts to municipalities. These regulations are really not targeting accessory uses. So like residential rooftop solar, that what I'm going to be talking about and giving kind of a quick overview of, it doesn't apply to that. It's more of these commercial grade industrial level facilities. But now, so one change that has come with the law is municipalities are required to issue a decision on these clean energy infrastructure projects within 12 months. And the law now defines the permit for these projects as one single consolidated permit. So it's similar in some ways to a 40B, except what complicates it a little bit is these projects still have to adhere to whatever the local regulations are. So if a project needs to obtain a special permit, an NOI for wetlands, any other local permits from boards, it still needs to obtain all those individual permits and go through all those different review boards. But all of those decisions need to be done within that 12-month time. So so it is a little bit complicated, but legally, all those individual decisions are consolidated into one permit. And what is also different now is that the appeal structure is different for these types of clean energy facilities. So if a project needed a special permit or site plan approval, they would no longer appeal that individual decision. Instead, it would have to receive all the decisions from all the various boards that it needs to approve the project. And once it is, once all those individual decisions have been issued, the whoever would be appealing the project would appeal it now to the Energy Facility Siting Board. And they would have 6 months to review the decision and either uphold the denial or, if there was some condition that was being appealed about the project. And with this legislation, it also created our division at Department of Energy Resources. So just as a reminder, we are the Division of Clean Energy Siting and Permitting. We are made up of one division director and 4 regional coordinators. So we have a similar structure to the Green Communities division, if you're familiar with them. So I'm the regional coordinator for the Central Region, which covers the majority of the towns in MRPC's purview. My colleague, Allison Gage, she is the Western coordinator, and so she is the liaison for the towns at the western edge of MRPC's region, like Athol and Petersham and Hardwick. But really our role is to assist and provide resources to these municipalities as we are undergoing these changes and to help guide them through this process. And I have another slide about what our charge is in terms of regulations we need to create, health and safety standards as well. And so this slide is really just showing what is trying to visualize the purpose behind the legislation of really how of taking what can sometimes be a complex and long permitting process for clean energy infrastructure and streamlining it by dividing it into these small and large projects, where now these small projects will submit one application to the municipality. It will still be reviewed by those respective boards, but one single decision will be issued in the 12 months or less time frame. And so with this, we are also required to promulgate relevant regulations. Normally, I have a separate slide on each of these bullet points. But for the sake of time, since I only have a half hour today, I'll just kind of give a brief overview of each of these. You will all have the slides that give more information on each of these topics. And like I said, I'm more than happy to meet with any of you individually and come out to your communities to kind of go over more of these in depth and answer any questions as well. But the first thing that we are required to do is create public health, safety, and environmental standards. So these do apply to all clean energy infrastructure projects, but we are also really taking into account concerns and considerations about battery storage systems and thinking about what are health and safety standards that municipalities need to ensure that these systems are, accounting for and ensuring proper precautions and bandwidth. We are also required to create that common standard application for all these small clean energy facilities. And so because applicants will now be submitting one single application to the municipality that will then be reviewed by the respective boards, they will also be required to submit that application to the state as well. So we can track and these projects as well as we assist communities. The developers now are also going to be required to do a process called pre-filing. So 60 days before they submit their completed application, they will have to submit something to municipalities called a pre-filing notice of intent to apply. And the purpose of this is to really ensure that community engagement for these processes happens much earlier in the process. So community members are aware of these projects and are able to give input before the projects are too far along in the permitting process. So in that pre-filing period, developers are going to be required to host at least one public meeting to notice a robust list of abutters and key stakeholders. And during that public meeting, give an overview of the project, respond to questions and answers, and potentially, make any adjustments to their design or considerations for mitigation efforts before they actually submit their completed application. Developers are also now required to complete something called a site suitability analysis. So this is the purpose of site suitability is from the state side to incentivize developers to place these types of infrastructure on pre-developed land instead of trying to site them on environmentally sensitive areas or open space. And so the applicant will be required to complete this rubric and assessment that will be reviewed by an individual arbiter from the state. And that will help guide potentially many different aspects of their project and give municipalities more power to potentially impose mitigation fees or deny the project if the applicant comes in with a site suitability score that is showing lots of environmental and social impacts on the site. In the event that a municipality does not issue a decision within that 12-month time frame, constructive approval is granted to the project. And so the state has to come up with a list of common conditions and requirements that would be attached to those projects that receive constructive approval. So we have been reviewing lots of recently permitted projects to see what conditions have been attached and imposed on them and are adding our own as well to ensure that in the event that this happens, that these projects would still have to adhere to local, state, federal regulations. And there would be lots of parameters for operations and maintenance, decommissioning, and administrative guardrails. We are also tasked with providing guidance for procedures and timelines, for helping municipalities work through this process, and also creating standards for enforcement actions, and developing potentially other compensatory environmental mitigation funds and additional fee collections for these projects. So what, while that is a hefty charge, we basically, what our division really feels strongly about is providing an efficient, consistent permitting pathway that balances both increasing the amount of small energy clean infrastructure to help the Commonwealth meet its emission goals, but while also respecting the, local autonomy of cities and towns, and giving cities and towns that clear guidance, standards, and expectations so they have better tools and resources to adequately review these projects and issue decisions on them. Because of the changes that are also coming into this process, we are hoping that with these projects, there will be more robust, productive, and collaborative engagement between applicants and stakeholder groups, not only with meaningful outreach happening earlier in the process, but clearer guidelines around mitigation, community benefit agreements, and so forth. And lastly, we really want to make sure that we're identifying the tools and programs needed by municipalities and applicants to improve technical understanding, procedural awareness of the law, and allow everyone to confidently handle siting and permitting these projects. So with that, we are also working under a very tight timeline. So the legislation that was passed in November has set a deadline of promulgating regulations by March 1st of 2026. And because of that, we have to issue draft regulations by the end of September. So one of the purposes of me attending tonight is to just not only to hopefully answer some questions and get feedback from you, but really to also raise awareness that this is happening. So we will be hosting public hearings in October. We are still working on finalizing what the public hearing schedule will be and when the public comment period will be. But as soon as that is finalized, I will be sending out emails to people in the region and also, spreading the word using the RPAs and other key stakeholder groups like Mass Municipal Association as well, just to make sure that there is as much awareness as possible and people are given the opportunity to comment on these regulations. That being said, even though we have to promulgate regulations by March 1st, 2026, we also do have the authority to set a time of when these regulations would go into effect. So right now, I believe it's drafted in the draft regulations, which are still being worked on, either 9 months or a year. So these would not go into effect until either January 1st, 2027 or March 1st, 2027. And the purpose of that is to give communities time to learn and be adequately trained about this process and make any updates to their zoning or general bylaws to ensure there is adherence with the law as well. So I will skip over all of these slides that just go more into depth about each of these processes. Like I mentioned, you will have all of them, but I've emailed a few of you to set up individual meetings. So if you're interested in that, please either reach out to me, or more than happy to come out to your communities and meet with you or meet with any of your boards to discuss this in more in depth. But here is my contact information, and I welcome any questions.
Is there any chance you can send us the deck from tonight?
Yes, I believe Glenn and Holly have it.
Yeah, we already have it.
It's in the
and,
folder right now.
Yeah, the folder that's been shared with everybody, it's already there.
And it was
I
sent out
missed
to
it
you
when I was going through.
earlier. It was sent out in an email earlier as well.
Excellent. Well, in that case, thank you for sending the deck over. Then I have a quick question, and we'll open it up to the board. If there are multiple aspects to a project, For example, if there was to be a battery energy storage system in conjunction with solar, does one element push it over? Do both elements have to push it over? Is there any special treatment in that kind of situation?
So do you mean like if potentially like a project came in that was, and can you still see the slides? I just want to make sure that like,
Yes.
so if there was a battery component and a storage component, or a storage component and a generation component that both fell under these metrics, that would still be handled by the municipality.
Okay. If one of the metrics went over, then it would go to EFSB.
I believe so. Because in that case, like, I guess, if there was like a 24 megawatt solar array and like a 150 megawatt hour battery, it's a good question. I'm not entirely sure I can say with 100% certainty that the project itself would go to the EFSB, but I think that's what it would happen instead of the project being broken up. But potentially but that's a great question that I'll look into.
And additional questions from the commission or staff? It looks like we have a hand up with Karen. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, Karen.
Good to see you again. You mentioned that it would be one application to the town and one permit issued by the town, but the planning board could do a special permit if that was required. The Concom could do their thing if it's required. So will that one application, like, as you know, the Concom has particular forms that have to be filled out. And so will the application include those things, or will the applicant have to individually do all of that separately?
It's a great question, and one that I've kind of raised from like to the state. One idea I've proposed, and that has kind of been met with some questions, I guess. Is there a way where we can define the common application as essentially like a cover sheet and the information about the project and these additional requirements like the site suitability, and then all the associated forms that are needed for those individual permits. So that is something we are still working through. Because for the workability of this, each board has different requirements of number of site plans or number of drawings, information. So it is we don't have a great answer or haven't completely like worked through what it would look like quite yet.
Okay, and I guess the same would be said for the permits that are given. Like,
yeah, for that, so for the decision of it, I imagine that is a little clearer from our end of what it's going to look like, where the decision itself would be the cover sheet and all the individual decisions from those boards almost like stapled behind it with like, did this board issue an approval, did it a denial, and then from there that would be stamped in by the town or city clerk as the consolidated decision. And if I didn't clearly stated during this, the permit is an all or nothing permit. So if any single board issues a denial, the permit is denied. So all boards would have to issue an approval for the project to be approved.
And I have one more, sorry.
No, please. This is why I'm here. Yeah.
So if it sounds like a lot of work for the municipality to add this into all the things they already do. Is it gonna be the same requirements as like a special permit with the public hearing and the notices to abutters and all of that?
Yeah, so the requirements for those, the noticing requirements and the hearing requirements for those individual permits don't change. So like the applicant would still have to go through all those processes. This is where we are hoping that people in my role, like us as regional coordinators, will serve as just a resource and, you know, capacity to help, especially some of those smaller communities. Like, for example, one idea I proposed is having us as regional coordinators really help with facilitating and coordinating that pre-filing process, since it's, you know, hosting a public meeting and coordinating that whole effort. So we are trying to balance the requirements that the law does set forth with this, with the understanding that especially much smaller communities are already at capacity or over capacity, and you know, finding ways where we can support them.
And I'm sorry, I do have one. Will the state be coming out with model bylaws for municipalities so that 351 communities don't have to make them up?
Yep. So the state, we will be coming out with a general bylaw that is mostly going to be focused on the process of this, so that the town would be able to have some flexibility with potentially like who are the point people and how these projects will be reviewed by the boards. If, for example, the town was interested in having joint hearings between different boards on these projects, you know, giving them that ability, or if they wanted to do concurrent review where each of the boards are reviewing at the same time, or sequential review, so the town would be able to decide, you know, and have the flexibility of what works within their sort of bandwidth, their culture of how they currently do and permit things.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Looks like we have another hand up.
Yeah, Brian Keating from Lancaster. So we have in our bylaws already, we have a solar overlay district where these types of ground-mounted solar arrays are allowed by right. So you know, through Karen's questions, I think a lot of this was answered. But if we needed to supplant or supplement our, would it be one of those things where we would maintain our, or retain our solar overlay bylaws if they were as restrictive or less restrictive than the state? Or would we, you know, need to just, you know, use the state's bylaw in place of ours? Because we're actually trying to amend our ground-mounted solar bylaw to allow smaller arrays in residential districts outside of the solar overlay. But I just want to know how much of a disruption this would be. In order, should we bother doing that? So this doesn't affect smaller arrays under 25, you know, under 50 kilowatts or anything like that. You know, there's not a private thing. This is.
Yeah, so so it's a great question. So the legislation was written to be very so it was not clear, where it just basically created these metrics where anything under 25 megawatts is you know, subject to this process. So we, in our rulemaking through the regulations, are going to be excluding a lot of those smaller projects, especially those accessory uses. I think it's going to be under 250 kilowatt arrays will not be subject to this, because, you know, it doesn't make sense for someone who's just doing a very small backyard solar array to, you know, go through this lengthy process. But kind of to your larger question, though, this is really mostly impacting the process of how these things are permitted by imposing that timeline. And combining essentially all these individual decisions from boards into a single permit legally. But what I should also make you aware of, the state is also looking at updating its solar bylaws, so the solar model bylaw, and the state is also going to be coming out with a model battery bylaw as well. So our Green Communities Division is currently working on that. And so it doesn't sound like, it sounds like what you're saying in Lancaster would not need to change based on those model bylaws, but there always is, depending on the specifics of theirs, you know, towns may need to look at those and see how in compliance they are, how much they deviate from them in order to be in compliance with the Dover Amendment.
Sure. Okay, so just to follow up, so for instance, the big thing in our bylaws, we talk about, dimensional setbacks.
Mhm.
Is that part, is that going to be part of the state bylaw?
So dimensional setbacks will be, so I have not seen the updates to the model solar bylaw that are coming out yet. They have not been published. They're still being worked on. I do believe setbacks are in there, but I don't know what the number is for them quite yet.
Sure, all right, thanks. I want to give you a call. I'll send you an email, see if we can talk further.
Perfect. All right, that sounds great.
Awesome. Any further questions from anybody on the commission or any staff? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. I do want to highlight one thing if you've not already been made aware of it. We have some folks in our communities who are very interested and very engaged in what's going on with this, particularly around battery energy storage systems. So depending upon where you end up planning on having some of those public hearings in the forum that you take for them, I would expect some of those to be potentially large. And hopefully they don't just get scheduled in Boston and that they either have a virtual element or are decentralized, and you look at having them in either Worcester or Gardner or someplace like that where it's easier for folks to access.
Yeah, so right now, my division director is really we're hoping to have one in each region and one in Boston and have them all have hybrid capabilities. And we actually have a meeting tomorrow to kind of work through that and figure that out. So I will, once those public hearings are announced, I will, spread the word as widely as possible to ensure people are aware of them, especially because I know there are a lot of feelings and thoughts and concerns around battery storage, especially, especially with the project going on in Oakham and some of those larger projects as well, to give people the opportunity to weigh in and make sure their feedback's being heard as well. So yeah, I appreciate that. And we are definitely taking that seriously.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of the commission, thank you very much for coming. This was very helpful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. All right. I look forward to continuing the conversation. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so let's jump back into procedural stuff. So the next thing on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes from the previous meeting, being the August 7th, 2025 meeting. These minutes have been made available to everybody through the folder and the pre-meeting materials. I'd like to handle this by having a motion, then a second, and then if there's any corrections, handle it through a friendly amendment to the motion during discussion. Would somebody like to make a motion to accept the minutes? Looking for a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move to accept them.
Excellent. Thank you. Hearing a first, do we have a second?
Second?
Awesome. Hearing a first and a second. Do we have any corrections or discussion on the minutes? They look pretty good to me. All right, so moving ahead, calling a roll call vote.
Sorry, hold on one second. I was just trying to get my share screen back on.
No
Okay,
problem.
Christopher Monroe,
Aye.
Doug Thornton,
Aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Kathleen Cashel,
Aye.
and Thomas.
Aye.
Are there
That's it.
any commissioners that have not been called for the vote? All right, the minutes are accepted. So moving ahead on the agenda, we have the reading and acceptance of the cash schedule and warrant. And I don't believe we have Mr. Schwartz tonight, do we?
We don't. We also, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
give you a heads up. So you'll find in a couple of minutes that we've had a transition. Our fiscal director has resigned. Holly and I have prepared a cash schedule, but we're not 100% sure it's 100% accurate. So we're asking for forgiveness and that permission to provide the August cash schedule and warrant and the September document at the October 9th meeting. We could have presented it tonight. It's in okay shape, but with the transition, and Holly's just been out straight with trying to be the person that does our payroll and keep our financial oil going. So we're going to do that in October, excuse me. Yeah, in October, we'll do August and September. So we don't have August tonight.
Excellent. Are there any commissioners have any questions or objections? All right, well, let's roll forward on the agenda then, and that dovetails right into administrative matters. So turning it back to Mr. Eden.
So, Mr. Chair, thanks a lot. And what I'm going to do is talk about items 5.1, which is a proposed budget amendment. 5.2, Jason, could you scroll down to 5.2? I just forgot the title of 5.2, please. Going to talk about that, which is the resignation of fiscal director and hiring of new, and 5.3. Jason, can you scroll down again, please? 5.3 is proposed salary adjustments FY26. So I'm going to talk about those in a package, but I want to start by going down. Jason, could you go to the bottom of page 6, please? And there's a sentence in red. We will discuss it more in detail later, but I just want to tie some things together here. So under 5, okay, on the bottom of page 6, I think this is agenda item number 5.8. We'll get to it in reasonably short order. This talks about the most relevant section of an executive order signed by Donald Trump, the president. All else being equal, preference for discretionary awards should be given to institutions with lower indirect cost rates. I just want to make you all aware that we always try to maintain a low indirect cost rate, which is also synonymously known as our overhead rate. That'll come up in another minute, and these issues are linked, and I just wanted to explain that. So, Jason, could you go back to 5.3, please? I think I'm going to start with 5.3 or 5.2. I can't remember which one it is. 5.3, no, 5.2. We're going to do 5.2. So let's give you the backstory. So Chris McNamara submitted a resignation on August 7th. His last day was the August 22nd. Holly posted the position internally and externally concurrently. On that date, we had a salary range of 60 to 90. We had one existing employee applied for the position internally. We received no applications from the outside of the organization. Tracy Murphy, who's a senior planner with the Planning and Development Department, applied for the position of fiscal director. Holly and I interviewed Ms. Murphy on August 22nd. We met with her again on September 2nd. Ms. Murphy has more than 10 years of experience in the areas of grant management, planning, development, financial oversight in several municipalities in Mass and at the MRPC. She's been with us for 3 years. I do want to say that this is a request to hire Tracy Murphy as the new fiscal director to follow Chris McNamara. If we do this, this would give the agency the first fiscal director in about 26 years that brings to the position grants management, grants oversight, financial management of grants, and some planning and development, many planning and development skills also. So there's a different package that we're looking at hiring here. She also has accounts receivable, accounts payable, doing some payroll tasks as well in prior positions. What we'd have to train her in is the financial accounting software that we use, which is called Grants Management System, or GMS. So that's just a quick aside to that paragraph, and that, quite frankly, gives her a leg up in our estimation, as opposed to all the other past directors didn't know anything about the grants world, and this candidate does. So that's a good thing for us. Next paragraph, we do recommend that Ms. Murphy be promoted to the position of fiscal director. Can you scroll back down a little bit, Jay? I missed that paragraph above the resolution. I'm sorry. Yeah, right there. Thanks. So we recommend that Tracy be promoted to the position of fiscal director. Her salary of $91,765 would stay the same. We'll review her performance in 6 months from September 8th. We've asked, and she's agreed to start next Monday if the commissioners bless her hiring and promotion to fiscal director. The resolution, you can read it again later, but what it says is, be it the MRPC approves of Ms. Murphy's promotion to fiscal director based on the above stated conditions. Jason, could you go above to 5.2, please? Oh, sorry, that was 5.2. Can you go down to 5.3, please? I apologize. All right. What we're going to do here is, remember I said, hey, that overhead rate thing in red ink in August executive order from the White House said we have to be careful. What I've tried to do here is we're proposing that existing staff take on some additional responsibilities. They'd get some increased compensation. And instead of the other option, quite frankly, is to go out and hire for somebody from either hire Tracy or hire for somebody from the outside, but ideally hire Tracy and then hire another full-time person to work with Tracy, who we'd have to train from scratch. Holly has been trained in much of the fiscal operations over the past 3, 4, 5 years when we had a transition going from about 18 to 2019. However, Holly's a full-time administrative and human resources director. What I want to do is split her job 60-40 or cut it in half, where it's less admin, which I can take over, slightly less HR, but she can be very supportive and help the new fiscal director, Tracy, with doing fiscal operations. Jason and Kayla have stepped up to the plate. They want to help and be supportive. They volunteered, and I want to compensate them also. And I'm going to be taking on some things, only a couple things that Tracy does now in EDA and EPA work, and then also some HR work, and then some admin work as well. So this is a request to compensate people. We can only compensate people if A, they get a promotion, or B, they take on additional responsibilities according to our personnel policies. So that's what 5.3 is about. So that's the background. Let me go over the sentences. So for approximately a year, we've been operating with one fiscal person. Now that's been Chris McNamara, with no fiscal manager or fiscal assistant. Chris was a very capable individual. I can't justify the expense of bringing in a fiscal manager or fiscal assistant right now. We are in interesting times. We're waiting for well over $800,000 to be awarded. We don't expect every penny to be awarded, but between what's going on in the federal government, we have to be careful. So I'm not looking to add add another position to the ball game here, to the ballpark. However, we do need a backup system that we have to create that would increase our checks and balances in accordance with our MRPC fiscal policy, share some fiscal responsibilities among multiple staff, because right now when Chris walked out, we had Holly, thank God we did. If not, I would have been writing, paper payroll checks last week. We also want to create improved staff backup system for periods when the fiscal director is absent due to vacations or future departure or medical or whatever. The executive director has the authority to update and edit job descriptions and assign duties. However, any expansion of employees' duties and responsibilities should be accompanied by appropriate level of increased compensation commensurate with duties. That's in the personnel policies, and that section is cited. Paragraph 1 talks about providing annually Jason and Kayla with an extra $2,500 in their salary per year. Paragraph 2 talks about allocating providing another 22,005 to Holly for taking on new roles and responsibilities on a permanent basis to the tune of 22,005. Same amount for the executive director. My work will be expanded. I will be taking on things in some of the planning development, some in HR, some more in admin, and looking for another 22,005 in my salary also. The details of what people will be doing are in the item paragraphs 1, 2, and 3. Jason, could you scroll down, please? I think the only things left is might be the resolution, which states that the MRPC approves of the above stated salary adjustments to the MRPC's budget. Having said that, one more boring paragraph, and then I'll stop talking. Jason, could you go to 5.1, please? Which is the actual amendment request to amend the budget. As Jason's scrolling up, and I'll give you some background, there are in the handouts tonight, there are 6 PDFs of Excel spreadsheets. They are 3 pages of the budget as it was adopted June 5. The other 3 pages, there are 6 different PDFs. The other 3 pages are the budget as it would show up tonight if this amendment was approved by the commissioners. This is a summary of the amendments. If you want to see the source of the numbers, we can pull up those files. If people want to see the Excel files and get right down to the cell reference where these numbers come from, happy to do that. Just know it's there. Don't have to if you don't want to. So this report, when the FY26 budget was adopted on June 5, we expected revenue of a little over 2.5 million. We expected expenses to be a little under 2.8 million for a proposed surplus deficit around $265,000 at an overhead rate of about 118%. Apologies, Jason, can you scroll down? If the commissioners vote favorably tonight, hang on, I need something to sip. Sorry, folks. So if you adopt the budget amendment tonight, we expect a revenue minimum to be 2.5 million. We do expect the expenses to go down with this transition because basically the fiscal director, we paid him for 2 months of service. So we have a dividend, a savings, spread the money around to 4 other people. So actually our expenses would go down by 15,805. The surplus deficit would go down by the same amount. It's just basic math. And then the indirect cost rate would go down by about 4%. That's what that sentence in red. I made this sentence in red because it ties into the White House's executive order, I think of August 7th, to say, hey, future grants, we're going to look at your overhead rates. So I'm trying to balance about 10 variables on a 10-seated seesaw here, if you will. Horrible analogy, I know, I apologize. But I'm trying to balance a lot of variables to make sure that we can get through this so we can have a solid admin and fiscal department going forward. Jason, could you scroll again, please? The executive director proposes the hiring of the fiscal director from within, following the resignation by Chris, who I already talked about. He was our FD for 1.5 years, and he was with us for about four years total. Increased duties, responsibilities, and compensation for the 4 existing employees that I talked about to absorb some of the fiscal responsibilities, reassign some more human resource and great oversight tasks among the 4, and then reduce the total amount of funds needed for salary and benefit costs by a little over 13 grand by shifting basically the responsibilities versus adding 50 or 70 grand to the budget. And if we add 50 or 70 to the budget, which would be the minimum, then the overhead rate would go up. So that's why I'm trying to do a shuffle here. And that resolution is be it resolved that the MRPC approves the ED's above proposal to reassign certain work responsibilities and less than financial costs. So that's technically a budget amendment. So it's a budget amendment for 5.1. And then 5.2 is, hey, someone resigned, we recommend somebody else. And then 5.3 is the shuffling of the duties with the commensurate cost of compensation increased to 4 staff. That's the gist. I tried to do it in 15. I apologize if I went over. Mr. Chairman, please, back to you.
So just for the purposes of efficiency, let's do questions from the commission on all of these together, and then we'll go through and we'll look at the individual resolutions. So any questions from the commission on any of Glenn's report and request here? All right, so let's in that case scroll back up to 5.1.
There's a
And
hand up.
Hand up.
oh,
Yeah, I just, yeah, so Glenn, I heard you say you're gonna take on some of the economic development, now, does that mean to say that, you won't open the position of economic development planner again, and just spread that role around to this existing staff?
So it's a great question, Brian. Basically, by Tracy being promoted, we eliminate the position of senior planner in planning and development. So right tonight, there are 6 people in planning and development. There's Karen and 5 planners. By promoting Tracy from planning and development, from senior planner to fiscal, she moves away from the planning and development department. So the 6 people goes down to 5. So we would not replace that position right now. What's also going on here, Brian, and everybody else, is that I hinted earlier that we are waiting on grant awards. So contracts are ending and things are starting to pinch out. And about every 6 months, you have to look ahead. And right now, and I have to say this for the public record and for the staff and everybody in the room, that we do have to be careful. We need some of those funds to come in. And I believe strongly that of the 843 or 846,000 that's pending, I strongly believe that between 300,000 and 400,000 will come in, will offset that deficit of around $250,000, and we'll actually have a surplus by the end of the fiscal year. But I don't want to add 50 or 70 to the budget to hire another person, because then that would increase the deficit a lot more. You'd go from 265 to 320. So that's a problem. And then, but the core of your question is, would we hire somebody else? No, we shift responsibilities within. We do a little bit of compensation for some of the people, and we move on by eliminating a position. So if we have 16 positions on the payroll right now, 16 W-2s, we go down to 15.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Great question.
Yep. I guess on a related note, when would you be expecting the handoff of Tracy's projects to be happening, and what do you think that handoff is going to look like?
So okay. So the when, 2 parts. The when is, Monday morning. All right. And then, there was another part to your question. So right away, and I started in 99 to 07. My job was CDBG, EDA, EPA, and all the other alphabet soup of grants. So I'm very comfortable with doing most of that. I will not work in a vacuum. I'm going to need Karen and another person in her office to work with me, because everybody knows that everything you do in grants right now, you have to upload this and online this, and Karen's the person we need to help doing, uploads of quarterly reports. Glenn doesn't know how to do this. So this is a team effort to get through this. However, I'm going to take the lead on those things.
All right, and it looks like we have a
This
hand
is
up from
Renee.
Karen.
I just want to say that I'm having a staff meeting with my department on Monday. Tracy has already given me a summary of all the things that she's done on her projects and where they're at. So I'm going to be assigning them out to the other 4 planners. And they should be in touch with you soon. And can I ask a math question?
Sure.
Glenn, you mentioned that you didn't want to hire someone else at 50 to 70, but you're at almost 50 with the additional compensation. So I didn't know what the difference was.
What the difference is, okay, so we're using 50 to compensate people internally with existing funds. I guess my point is that I don't believe we need to hire another person right now. Especially, I'm not really crazy about hiring another body right now because of the proposed deficit that we have.
But you said you didn't want to spend the 50 to 70 because it would up our overhead rate.
Overhead
But
rate,
the
right?
But the 22.5 and the 22.5 and the 5,000 pretty much comes up to 50,000.
Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So the overhead rate, will go up a little bit, but I don't know. So you're right. If we're going to spend 50 in admin, but I don't want to spend 70 or 75. So maybe it's only a $25,000 differential.
Okay,
Karen.
all right.
You're
I just,
absolutely
I
right.
just was
That's the best.
confused.
Well, that's my job, is to confuse people. And your job is to make me be more clear. So thank you. It's really 25,000. Yes.
If I'm following this correctly too, if Glenn is going to be doing some planning tasks, that will reduce the amount of admin hours he charges, thus reducing the overhead rate as well. If I
No.
follow
We're
that
gonna
correctly.
figure,
No?
we're
You
gonna
would-
figure out how much I'm gonna charge or not to the contracts. Because we need to save that money for the planning and development staff. So that would lean
Okay.
toward doing that. And then the overhead rate might go up a little bit, but not a great deal. So again, it's like that 10-seated seesaw. I mean, this bluntly, the $70,000 from an EDA contract we're expecting pretty soon, 210 for 3 years, 70 a year. I want that to go to the planning and development staff, not to Glenn's timesheet. Okay, so we can suffer with a small increase in the overhead, but make sure that we can keep the rest of the planning and development staff. That's the objective there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't say I won't, charge it all to an EDA or an EPA contract, but not 20 hours a week. There might be 2 hours a month. So hopefully I'm answering the question.
All right, additional questions and comments from the commission? All right, well, let's move up to 5.1 and let's run down the list here. Can you scroll up to 5.1 for us? Oh, I guess we are, I guess we're
Yeah, it
there.
was. That is it.
Yep,
right there.
nope, I just
Yeah,
didn't see the number on the screen, my mistake.
that's all right.
Would somebody like to make a motion to move the resolution for 5.1? That the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission approves of the executive director's above proposal to reassign certain work responsibilities and lessen financial costs to the agency as outlined in the presentation document. Looking for a motion.
I'd make it for you if I could.
I'll make a motion to.
All
So
right,
moved.
hearing first, do we have a second?
Second,
All right, calling a roll call vote.
Okay, Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
Doug Thornton,
Aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Hartley,
aye.
Kathleen Cashel,
Aye.
and Thomas.
Aye.
I believe that's it.
Any commissioners not called in the roll? All right, the motion carries. Moving down
Mis-
to the,
Mr. Chair?
go ahead.
Just a point of information, Holly had reminded me that the net savings. So let's say Chris was in the budget for 75,000 plus benefits. We only spent about 16 or 18,000 on him this year. So there's about 50 odd thousand there that we would have spent on him that we're not. So actually the overhead won't go up. It's a shift of funding. Thanks for that, Holly. Appreciate the answer. The background.
All right, thank you. So now we're looking for a motion to move the resolution that the commission approves of Ms. Murphy's promotion to fiscal director based upon the above stated conditions.
So moved.
Hearing first, do we have a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Calling a vote by roll.
Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
Doug Thornton,
Thornton, aye.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Hartley,
aye.
Kathleen Cashel,
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
And that's it.
Any commissioners not called? All right, the motion carries. And then looking for a motion on 5.3 that the commission approve of the above stated salary adjustments to MRPC's fiscal year 26 budget. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Hearing a first, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Calling a vote by roll call.
Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
Doug Thornton,
Thornton, I.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Kathleen Cashel,
Aye.
and Thomas.
Aye.
Any
And I believe
commissioners
that's
not,
it.
any commissioners not called? All right, the motion carries. So moving forward into the agenda, we're still knee deep in administrative matters. So we are on to 5.4.
A very quick update that the state retirement legislation in the House and the Senate is finally an agreement that proposes that the RPAs, 10 of the RPAs and COGs in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will not have to reimburse the state for the retirement system for the payments for retirees for past payments. Our invoice outstanding is about $1.5 million or $1.75 million with the Commonwealth. If these separate pieces of legislation get passed, then this resolves one issue, and it would resolve the issue where MRPC wouldn't have to write $1.7 million or $1.5 million check to the Mass State Retirement System, and then MRPC would be out of business because we can't write that kind of check anyway. The other issue is what we would pay going forward, and that legislation has yet to be. It's drafted. It's the state treasurer wants all the RPAs and 10 of us to pay for a certain percentage of payroll, and I said, and I'm saying, well, it can be 0 or 1%. But anyway, that's a separate issue. So just keeping your report, keeping you up to date on this issue, and then I can go to 5.5 if there aren't any questions, Mr. Chair.
I was about to say, just for efficiency's sake, why don't you take us straight through all the way to 6?
You got it. You got it. So 5.5, I need Jason to scroll a little bit more so we can get to 5.5. Because I apologize, I don't remember what it is. Proposal to increase quorum requirement to be consistent with state law, action requested in October. Several years ago, several of the commissioners with a former chair, 2 chairs ago, said, hey, there was an assertion that we were having a problem getting a quorum when we actually weren't. We can prove it by numbers. We'll bring the data in October. But the commissioners decided to reduce the quorum requirement from 6 communities to 5. I happened to be looking through the state statute sometime in July or August. I don't remember when, though, over the summer. And it says in the statute, and I didn't know this at the time when this quorum requirement was changed, that in a region, no less than 25% of the communities constitute a quorum at a commission meeting. Well, 25% of 22 is 5.5. You got to round up to 6. So technically, we have a quorum requirement of 5 now. But ironically, ever since we moved into the Doyle facility at 464 Abbott Ave, where we are today, we've never had a problem with quorum. Our average is 10 or 11 or 12, median or mean average. So we have to go through now that I saw this in the statute, I owe it to the commission to bring this up and say, we need to put the quorum from 5 back to 6. This is just an FYI, action requested on October 9th. 5.6, Brownfields assessment information only. So we provided in the handouts tonight 2 policies. I know Christopher Monroe, I blew you off in a meeting in August. I took some time off. I apologize for that, but we're going to go over the artificial intelligence AI use policy and the Brownfields assessment revolving loan fund policy. Both of these have gone under our attorney's nose. And then Christopher has volunteered. Thank goodness he works in this field and he is an attorney. So Holly and Christopher and I are going to go over the AI policy sometime this September to bring it back to the commissioners in October 9th. The relevant staff will also see it, both policies. The RLF policy, certainly Karen would see it. I get to see it again. Whoever's going to be involved with EPR and RLF would see the policy, and input is welcome. The AI policy, the managers, the department heads would see the draft policy. which I can send out. It's in the handouts tonight. It's a public document, but I'll officially do it in an email to the department heads on no later than Monday, just to say I shared it with you. Because just saying, hey, it's here tonight, that's not fair. I should do it by email. I believe the last item, the second to the last item, 5.8, I continue to monitor the White House executive orders, their actions. There is one that has potential impacts to MRPC. Anybody that gets grants, it's about an 8-page executive order. Some of the key language in there is it's an executive order. It says improving oversight of federal grant making. There are some good things in this executive order. It says, be efficient. Make sure that you're checking on results. Those things are embedded in Code of Federal Regulations anyway. So the spin here is that there's some stuff here that I extracted and it's in italics, that the executive order will require agencies to review discretionary awards to ensure that awards are consistent with applicable law, agency priorities, and the national interest. And then it opens up the door to basically talk about race and transgenderism and illegal immigration, all that stuff. So it's just another executive order on another topic, but the common theme is about the federal administration's issues with illegal immigration, DEI, and so on and so forth. That the funds cannot be used to fund, promote, encourage, or subsidize or facilitate racial preferences, transgenderism, illegal immigration, or any other initiative that might compromise public safety or promote anti-American values. The compromise public safety, well, just watch your news. You know what's going on there with the federalization of local law enforcement. So just bringing it, I try to bring these things to your attention so you're aware. Actions in Washington can affect us. Just FYI, I would close with 5.9. Which is below that. Jason, if you can scroll down, thank you bunch. That the next lunch and learn, which I started doing on federal funding cuts. I've expanded it to some planning and funding initiatives. And I want to thank Karen and Bernie Cahill for coming. I think the last meeting or the one before to talk about grant opportunities. So I'm trying to spin the federal, there's no more money available left of this. I'm trying to spin it around to, yeah, but there are grants available over here. And by the way, are you aware of this new planning initiative? So I'm trying to make it more positive going forward. So that's the date. We'll send out an invitation next week. And I'm done. Thank you for listening to the speaker. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for helping us, commissioners. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So that kicks us forward into item 6, and we're pretty close to being on schedule, which is department updates. Do we have any updates from GIS?
I don't have any updates at this time.
Excellent. Moving forward to planning and development.
Sorry, I was on another screen.
No problem.
Yes, I have a report. Each year, the Southern New England chapter of the American Planning Association, SNEPA, holds a 2-day conference for planning professionals. The SNEPA conference draws more than 500 planners, engineers, architects, students, and other professionals to share experiences, collaborate, network, and earn maintenance credits for American Institute of Certified Planners certification. This year, the conference is being held November 6th and 7th in Newport, Rhode Island. The Planning and Development Department, through the Executive Director, is requesting approval for out-of-state travel for one planner, Bernie Cahill, principal planner, to attend the conference. Bernie has been studying for his AICP exam, which will take place in November, making this a timely conference for him to attend. The conference features 2 days of high-quality hands-on and interactive sessions, mobile workshops, land use law and planning ethics presentations, member networking, and vendor contacts. Attendance at these events expands employees' awareness of planning best practices, new solutions that are working in other communities, recent and upcoming changes in land use law, and general news around the planning community. The total cost for travel, hotel, registration, and meals will not exceed $1,000 for the employee. Conference costs for this will be charged to the conference's line item of the operating budget. And the resolution, be it resolved that the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission approves of the out-of-state travel of Bernie Cahill, principal planner, to the SNEPA 2025 conference in Newport, Rhode Island, November 6th and 7th, 2025, at a cost not to exceed $1,000.
Excuse me, that was changed to 1,300, Karen. Glenn changed that.
Oh, he didn't tell me, and I'm reading my own.
I figured, sorry,
Thanks, Holly. I did have 1,500, then I was like, it doesn't cost that much to go to Rhode Island.
I sent you an email that it was 1,300. You changed it to 1,000, Karen, and I don't know why you changed it to 1,000. So I stuck with the 1,300 that I emailed about 2 weeks ago.
All right, so do we have any questions from the commission? And I'm just gonna scroll here to make sure I'm not missing any hands this time. All right, would somebody like to make a motion for the resolution that the commission approve of the out-of-state travel for Bernie Cahill as described in the presentation documents?
So moved.
Hearing it first, do we have a second?
Second?
All right, any discussion? Calling a vote by roll call.
Christopher Monroe,
Monroe, aye.
Doug Thornton,
Thornton, I.
Brian Keating,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Kathleen Cashel,
Aye.
and Thomas.
Aye.
I believe that.
Any commissioners not called? All right, the motion carries. Anything additional from planning and development? All right, moving into transit and transportation. Any updates?
No updates this month. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So that moves us into item 7, which is open session reserved for topics the chair did not reasonably anticipate would be discussed. And I'm actually going to have an item for this myself, but let's just see if anybody has anything else yet. All right, so I have an item on this. DCR has put out a request for comment. And I'm actually just going to grab the share for a moment if I can. I apparently need to have it turned on for me. But DCR has put out a request for comment on what they call the Otter River Complex Resource Management Plans. And although it seems like it has a somewhat boring name, it's the management plans for all of the DCR-owned properties, essentially within the northern region for MRPC. So comments on this are due by the 20th of this month. There was already a virtual meeting that was held, which is available online. This is part of the Central Highlands District Resource Management Plan. But to DCR's credit, they've really been trying to get out there and try to get more local stakeholders, more local planning departments, and more local open space teams involved in what's going on with some of the long-term management of these parcels. And for some of these, for some of our towns, these are pretty large, pretty meaningful places, pretty large portions of some of our communities. So, and just to grab the list here, and I see if I can share now.
Can you? I did hit allow
Yes.
in the pop-up. Yeah, okay.
Yep. And there we go. So these are all of the parcels and state parks that are impacted by this public comment period. And this is going to determine how DCR looks at and handles these properties and how they impact work with some of the local stakeholders, with the local stakeholders obviously being us as local planning representatives of our communities. So you can see that on this particular public comment session, there are a lot of properties that impact MRPC towns. So whether your planning board or whether your open space committee looks at this, they should certainly be nudged to do so. DCR has been trying to get the word out about this, but hasn't necessarily done done a great job with the current IT security environment. The original email I got on this was in my spam folder. So I wouldn't be surprised if similar things had happened for everybody when this came in. But I definitely thought it was worth calling out attention to, because these are some of the anchor points that we look at while planning around our communities. So well worth the time to look at it. And if anybody on the commission needs any help putting together a comment for it, I can share some of the comments that I'd put in on the last time DCR asked for comments, because they asked for comments on Leominster State Forest and Hubbardston State Forest and such last month. So this is a new process. Glenn, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to that, but
Why would they give us such a short period of time to read all that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you ask me a question? Karen jumped in.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say if there was anything you want to add to it. Yeah, it is a pretty short public comment period, just a 30-day public comment period. And some of these documents are pretty meaty. I haven't looked yet to see what the biggest one here was, but the one for Wachusett State Reservation was like 90 pages. So it was a lot to get through that. But there is an opportunity through the links on the site here. And you can find this just by Googling Otter River Complex Resource Management Plan comment is the easiest way to find it. But it's possible to find them right there. And there is a video on when they went through what they perceived as being the highlights. Generally, the parts that I found were most meaningful were, and let's just crack one of these open here, was there's SWOT analysis. There's a SWOT analysis in each one of these documents. And that's really the part that seems to matter the most. And that's only 4 or 6 pages, as opposed to the overall documents being 40 pages a piece of exhibits and such. But the meaty parts are much shorter. But yeah, just wanted to call that out to everybody, because it is certainly an opportunity, and for some of our communities, these are really pretty meaningful features to what we have going on.
I live right across the street from the Townsend State Forest, so I am very interested in this.
Absolutely. So yeah, if everybody can do what they can to get the word out, I know it's short notice, but the state is absolutely hungry for feedback, and I can say from the process that went on for the Wachusett complex, they were super flexible and very interested in feedback, because the folks who are running this part of the process on the DCR side are planners. So if you approach them and talk to them like a planner and about community benefit and such, they were very quick to make adjustments and pivot and add information to the plans. So I suspect that they'd be very receptive to comment from any of us.
Mhm.
Awesome. Does anybody have anything else or any questions on that? All right, so let's move forward on the agenda. The next meeting is going to be Thursday, October 9th at 7, the same time, same place. When we'll come back to that. Never mind. In that case, let's move forward to the final motion of the evening. Would somebody like to make it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I was about to say I wasn't expecting to wait for that one at 8:26. So hearing a first, do we have a second?
Second,
Hearing a first and a second, it is non-debatable. Are there any objections? All right, we are adjourned. Well, thank you all very much for taking the time tonight. And we're all super busy, and what we do here matters. So thank you all quite a bit.
You're most welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, everyone.